Yeah, Talofa Lava, it's Tim Tafunga. It's 2nd of August 2025. I'm here just to talk about the recent United Nations General Assembly discussions on the Israeli and Gaza Strip situation and the current conundrum that's facing the United Nations General Assembly with regards to the recognition of Palestine within the United Nations and how this impinges upon the global geopolitical state of affairs with regards to how this impacts on global events such as the United States of America's likely response and perhaps the likelihood of a sanctions against the United Nations for their decisions with regards to recognizing the Palestinian state within the United Nations. Now, this refers back to the resolution 181 for the Two State Solution that has been in place and recognized within the United Nations since 1947. Now, as we may well be aware, that the Two State Solution has been around since the United Nations was created. But more to the point, the Israeli and Palestine two-state recognition through the resolution 181 had actually been introduced and recognized and ratified by the United Nations General Assembly. However, it became known, as it really is, the mea culpa for the casus belli, what we presently have, which is the perpetuation of a permanent war between the Pan Arabism Islamic world and the global jihadist movements through the Islamic Ummah against the Jews in this anti-Semitic permanent war. Now, this permanent war was initiated by Resolution 181 in 1947 when Palestine initiated the rejection of the two-state solution, not the Israelis. The Israelis understood the partition and accepted the partition of Israel, the Zionist state, that of the Palestine state. Now, the second part of my discussion is the etymological origins of the state of Palestine. The state of Palestine was created during the Roman Empire when the Romans had colonized the Jewish state, the Hebrew state of Judea. Judea was inhabited and still is inhabited by Jewish people. The initial Palestine state that was created under Roman decree by Emperor Hadrian in 135 AD was created before the advent of the Islamic religion. The Islamic religion came about 6 centuries later, but during the time of the Roman Empire, in Roman history and Roman documentation of the Roman colony of Judea, the indigenous people of Judea were all Hebrew speakers. The Hebrew speakers of Judea became known as Palestinians in the year 135 AD. After 135 AD, the diaspora of the Jewish people was scattered to the 4 corners of the world amongst the Ashkenazi Jews and the and all the Jews spread from Europe to North America and throughout the Middle East. Now, we now have the current situation whereby the Palestinians want to be recognized. In all honesty, if you recognize Palestine, you do not recognize an Arab state within Judea. You will recognize the Roman colony known as Palestine. Palestine was created by the Romans. It was not created by Arabs, and it was not an Islamic Arab state within Israel, within Judea. Presently, we have the Palestinians, who are an extension of Pan Arabism within the Jewish state of Israel. And so long as Palestine exists, we have within Israel and within former Judea a Palestinian Arab enclave within a former Jewish state known as Judea. Now, the history of Palestine predates the creation of Islam. So when you talk about Palestine, you're really talking about the history of the Jewish people and the history of Palestine that was inhabited by Hebrew speakers, not Arab. The Arabs and the advent of Islamism and the creation of the Al-Aqsa Mosque within Jerusalem had only occurred after the passing of Muhammad in 06042 AD, the death of Muhammad. The Islamic faith, if one would look at it from an outsider's point of view, may be considered a syncretic Abrahamic faith derived from the Jewish Judaism faith and the Christian faith that predates the Arab contrived religion of Islamism. If you would consider it that way, you may consider it from that secularist standpoint and the laicist standpoint of how the Abrahamic faiths of this world had all been derived from the Jewish faith. Now, if you would look at the syncretic religions that have since devolved and have come from the major Judaist religion, firstly, you would have Judaism, as we know. Secondly, Christianity, that is some 2,000 years old, and Islamism, which is barely 1,400 years old. So now we have these three major Abrahamic faiths that is dominated by over 5 billion people who believe in either Judaism, Christianity, or Islamism. If we look at it from a geostrategic and geopolitical standpoint and a cultural standpoint, you would see that so long as Palestine exists within Judea, or as it is now known as Israel, you will continue to have Pan-Arabism, nationalism embedded within Israel. And if Palestine is recognized as a dual state within Judea, you will ensure perpetual, permanent war within Israel. So now we have the lunatics taking over the asylum within the United Nations, with Pan-Arabism dictating the narrative to recognize Palestine within the United Nations. And in so doing, you will ensure permanent war amongst the Israelis against the Palestinian Arabs. That is what the United Nations has created. Two options may arise from this. One, Israel will walk out of the United Nations, and two, the United States of America will sanction the United Nations for their decisions and create a further schism within the United Nations General Assembly, and to the point that Israel may walk out, America may dissolve the United Nations. That is the most likely outcome if Palestine is recognized. It looks most likely those are the two options will be forthcoming. Until we realize that Pan Arabism seems to be the outcome and the reality of the foreseeable future. That's all I have to say for now. For my Samoan people and pro-Israeli Samoans who carry the Israeli flag alongside the Samoan flag in Samoa, my Samoans are in support of Israel and a single state in Israel. Ya, malo lava foi nei talanga mo nei itula ia manuia soifua tum.